Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy. I'm Caroline Milton, owner of Milton Coaching Collective. And may I start out by saying happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. We are live here on Thursday, May 4th for our weekly episode of Engineer Your Energy. If this is your first time tuning in, it's a pleasure to meet you. Each week I come live to talk about stress, to talk about burnout, to talk about well-being. The things that we can do as individuals and organizations to shift our experience of that. You see, my work is in helping us shift the way that we work to be performance driven and to be fulfillment driven. Too often we prioritize productivity, but we're primarily prioritizing how much work we put into achieve the outcome. And instead, we want to get really smart about how we prioritize our energy and how we ensure that work is fulfilling, right? And that it is not overtaxing us. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. You've likely already seen programming either from your employer or across social media that is speaking to the specific elements of supporting your mental well-being. Of course, we are more attuned to this now than ever before because of the impacts of the last several years since the COVID-19 pandemic. But the news were headlined this week by a warning from the Surgeon General on the impact of loneliness. And the truth is that mental health in our current state has been coming a long time before the COVID-19 pandemic. And yes, the COVID-19 pandemic really exacerbated the issues that we've been experiencing as a society. But this has been happening, it's been brewing now for several decades. That's because more than ever, we are focused on our work and we are spending less time with our communities where we move more, we change jobs more often. As a country, we are becoming more agnostic. And so we are spending less time in church, or the trends of younger generations is perhaps they have a belief system, but they don't necessarily enjoy the organized elements of religion. And so as a result, we don't have true, strong community and connections. Now, there are lots of different ways that I think that technology and virtual opportunities are excellent. And I am not a naysayer of things like remote work or virtual platforms for physical activity. But when I work with a client, we have to be intentional about asking the question of, where is your community? And where is community in a way that truly supports you? You see, one of the core elements of beating burnout, which is something I specialize in, is how do we tackle burnout together and individually? One of the core tenets of beating burnout is social support. It is the support of our community, of our workplace, of our families. How are we providing support so that we don't feel like we're tackling individual problems at all time? The ABCs of burnout prevention include B as belonging. How do we ensure that we feel like we belong somewhere? And one of the core ways that we close our stress cycle on a daily basis is through positive social interaction. And that means the interaction that we have with other people in person, that feeling that you get when you're in a physical space with someone that you just can't achieve when you're on a virtual call or in a virtual setting. We need to be around one another. And so as a result, when I work with a client, we're intentional about ensuring that that individual spends time in community in whatever way makes the most sense. You see, I had the experience back in 2020, April of 2020, as the world was shut down, I welcomed my first child. And I recalled the feeling of really not knowing what have I lost in terms of community as a result of becoming a parent, and also what have I lost as a community in the sense of the pandemic. Now, here we are 3 years later. And I'm so happy that there are many different ways that community has been able to show up more in my life because we've eased back on the COVID-19 pandemic. But yes, becoming a parent Any major life change like that, moving jobs, moving states, those things impact our community. And we have to be intentional about how we build that back. One of the things that I did recently that I recognized I needed for my well being was I joined a gym. And I joined a gym that was community based. I knew that I could continue to work out alone in my basement. But while that may serve me physically, I craved that community and that social interaction that came from doing hard things together. And I've noticed a drastic difference in my mental well being since joining that gym. I've completely transformed my relationship with alcohol since joining that gym because my mental health has been supported. So, my challenge to you today is to consider, do I feel lonely? Who is my social support network? Where do I feel like I can be myself? And who can I turn to when I need help? Who do I feel like I can trust to help me, to show up physically when I need them most? This is important. Like the Surgeon General warned, not only does loneliness lead to burnout, it also leads to 29% increased risk of heart disease, 32% increased risk of stroke, and 50% increased risk of developing dementia for older adults. Loneliness can take up to 15 years off the life expectancy, especially in adult men. So we need to take community and connection seriously. My challenge to you coming out of today's session is to be intentional about seeking community in the next week. Who is a friend that you can call to spend time with? Where is a new place that you can try, a coffee shop or a new gym, something that enables you to strike up a conversation and learn about someone new? When you go to the playground with your kids, meet a new friend, ask a question, offer that extension, that friendly opportunity for connection. We need it as individuals, we need it as a society. So that's it for this week's episode of Engineer Your Energy. All month in May, I'm going to be focusing on mental health, the role burnout plays in our mental health. We obviously understand that burnout is an element of our mental health and well-being. So we want to really bring awareness and focus to that this month. If you'd like to learn more about how to work with me as an individual, you're feeling burned out, you're feeling those effects of loneliness, or if as an organization you want to navigate, hey, how do we make this work in a remote or a hybrid environment that really creates a place where employees aren't burning out, you can visit my website. It's here on the screen, miltoncc.com. We can set up some time to chat about your goals and what you have in mind in terms of your journey towards well-being. Otherwise, if you're not already following along with me here, make sure that you follow our hashtags. Make sure that you're following me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, so that you can get alerted every time I go live on these platforms. So until I see you next week, be well.